You know that specific silence. It's 8:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. You're sitting on opposite ends of the couch. The TV is on, but neither of you is watching it. You look over at them, really look, and for a split second, you don't see your partner. You see a stranger who happens to live in your house. Your chest tightens, just a little, and then the thoughts start, fast, fragile, loud. When did we stop talking? Am I boring them? Do they even like me anymore, or are they just comfortable? If I bring this up, will they pull away again? Maybe I'm asking for too much. Stop. Take a breath. Here is the truth that nobody tells you. The distance between you isn't because the love is gone. It's because the safety is. You aren't drifting apart because you stopped caring. You are drifting apart because your nervous systems have learned that connecting feels dangerous. You are not failing at love. Honestly, you're not. This is not a sign that you chose the wrong person. Every couple who has ever loved deeply has stood exactly where you are standing right now, wondering if the bridge is burned. But here is the promise. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why your partner withdraws when you reach out, why your anxiety spikes when they pull back, and how to stop the cycle before it hits the point of no return. Let's get into it. Most couples believe that avoidant behavior is a character flaw. They think, he's just cold, or she's just selfish, or they don't want intimacy as much as I do. They believe that if they just try harder, love louder, or explain their feelings more clearly, the wall will come down. But the real truth is much deeper, and frankly, much kinder. Avoidance is not a rejection of you. It is a protection of them. When your partner shuts down, their nervous system is reading you as a threat before their mind can even catch up. It's not logic, it's biology. Think about it. When safety leaves a relationship, the love doesn't disappear. It goes underground. It hides behind defenses. What looks like stonewalling is usually someone who has been so emotionally overwhelmed for so long that silence is the only shield they have left. And here's the part no one talks about. Your pursuit triggers their flight. Their flight triggers your panic. Your panic triggers their further withdrawal. It's not incompatibility. It's a cycle. Two people who both desperately want connection, but whose survival strategies are accidentally keeping them apart. You are chasing safety through closeness. They are chasing safety through space. Neither of you is wrong. You are just speaking different emotional languages. Once you see this, you stop taking the distance personally, and that is where the healing begins. Here are the 5 signs you are approaching the point of no return, and how to step back from the edge. First, the functional roommate drift. Most couples think that if they aren't fighting, they're fine. They mistake peace for connection. They go through the motions, paying bills, walking the dog, scheduling dates, but the emotional current is dead. But beneath the surface, something terrifying is happening. You are becoming efficient, but you are ceasing to be intimate. The deeper truth? Avoidants often prefer functional harmony over messy vulnerability. If the relationship feels easy because you've stopped asking for deep emotional needs, they feel safe, but you feel alone. In the disconnecting version, you say, "We never talk about us anymore. It feels like we're just managing a household." They hear, "You are criticizing my effort. I am failing you." So they withdraw further into work or hobbies. But in the connecting version, you say, "I miss you." Not the version of you that pays the bills, but the person I laugh with. I want to feel close to you again, even if it's just for 10 minutes. They hear, I am inviting you in, not demanding you perform. And when you do that, the pressure lifts. That's the shift that turns a relationship that feels like a negotiation into one that feels like a refuge. Second, the criticism withdrawal loop. Most people in relationships think that if they just explain their pain clearly enough, their partner will finally understand. So you list the grievances. You point out the missed cues. You try to fix the dynamic with words. But here is what nobody explains. To an avoidant nervous system, criticism feels like existential rejection. It's not about the dishes. It's not about being late. It's about the feeling of, I am not enough. When you criticize, their brain screams, danger, I am being attacked. And the only way they know how to survive an attack is to leave the room. In the disconnecting version, you say, you always shut down when I try to talk. Why can't you just stay present? Their internal monologue says, I can't win. If I speak, I'm wrong. If I stay silent, I'm wrong. I need to escape. But in the connecting version, you say, I notice I'm getting anxious, and I imagine you're feeling overwhelmed. I don't need you to fix it right now. I just need to know we're on the same team. Their internal monologue shifts to, she's not attacking me. She's regulating herself. I can breathe. That's when your partner stops feeling like a problem to manage and starts feeling like a person to come home to. Third, the loss of curiosity. Most couples stop asking questions. They assume they know everything about each other. You stop wondering what they're thinking. You stop noticing the small shifts in their mood. You operate on autopilot. But intimacy isn't built in the big moments. It's built in the 30-second ones, when you choose to be curious instead of certain. For an avoidant partner who is constantly scanning for demands, a soft bid is a safe way to connect. If you miss it, they learn, my attempts to connect are ignored. Better to keep it to myself. This is where it gets really interesting. The avoidant partner is reaching out, just quietly, just safely. In the disconnecting version, you assume, I know why he's quiet, he's mad at me. Result? You preemptively defend yourself or shut down. But in the connecting version, you ask, I notice you're quiet tonight. I'm curious what's going on in your world. No pressure to share, just wondering. Result, you create a low-stakes invitation. And here's what changes everything. Curiosity is the antidote to judgment. When you replace judgment with curiosity, the walls between you start to come down without either of you having to say a word. Fourth, the bid breakdown. Most people ignore the tiny bids for connection. A sigh, a glance, a comment about the weather. These seem insignificant, so you scroll on your phone. You give a one-word answer. You miss the moment. But attachment science tells us that these micro-moments are the bricks of trust. For an avoidant partner who is constantly scanning for demands, a soft bid is a safe way to connect. If you miss it, they learn, my attempts to connect are ignored. Better to keep it to myself. In the disconnecting version, they say, look at that bird. You say, without looking up, Their brain registers, I am invisible. But in the connecting version, they say, look at that bird. You look up. You smile. Wow, that's huge. Where is it? Their brain registers, I am seen. I am safe. That's the shift. It's not about grand gestures. It's about turning toward each other again and again in the smallest ways. Fifth, the fear of enmeshment versus the fear of abandonment. Most couples view their needs as opposing forces. You think, I need more closeness. They think, I need more space. You see this as a battle. One of you has to win. One of you has to lose. But the real truth? You both want the same thing. A secure base. You fear abandonment, so you cling. They fear enmeshment, so they pull away. But here is the paradigm flip. Space does not kill intimacy. Insecurity kills intimacy. If you can give them space without punishing them with silence or anxiety, they will actually come back closer, because they learn that space is safe. It's not a precursor to breakup. It's just breathing room. In the disconnecting version, you text, "Why haven't you replied? Are we okay?" They feel suffocated, controlled. I need to run. But in the connecting version, you think, they need time. I will focus on my own joy right now. You send nothing. You go for a walk. You read a book. They feel, she is okay. I am okay. I miss her. I want to reach out. And when you do that, you stop chasing. And strangely, that is exactly when they start running toward you. This isn't a checklist. It's an invitation to show up differently. When you internalize this, you stop reacting and start responding. You stop seeing your partner's avoidance as a rejection of your worth and start seeing it as a signal of their fear. And your partner will feel the difference before you've even said a word. You are becoming the kind of partner who offers safety instead of demand, who offers curiosity instead of judgment, who offers presence instead of pressure. That is how you rebuild the bridge, not by forcing them across, but by making the ground beneath their feet feel solid enough to walk on. Real intimacy doesn't start when you find the right person. It starts when you decide to become the safe harbor they've been looking for. If this resonated with you, if you felt seen in these words, hit that like button. It helps this message reach other people who are silently struggling in the same room. And tell me in the comments, which of these 5 patterns do you recognize most in your relationship? Let's talk about it. Because you are not alone in this. See you in the next one.